Okay. Thank you very much for the delay. I'm just happy that I'm going to be the last but one speaker. So I've been listening to the presentations. I think most of the things that I'm going to say are already actually covered. Technical bit. So I'll be very fast. I don't think I'll spend 20 minutes. Because I'm going to skip quite a number of things. Am I okay? Or he'll project? He's fine. Okay, good. Yeah, so, I've been listening to a number of presentations, and I think we're speaking the same language, especially in this session. But mine is just to remind people that it's not as easy as it sounds. And I've heard, I think my doctor there was presenting and said, you know, things are good, and they were able to get data and win on all fair principles. So I'm just taking you back a little bit to say, we live in the open data and open science era. We have global initiatives that are helping us, but there are practical implementations on when we really do try to get this data. And I'll show you some of the examples very quickly. I am with the University of Botswana. We do have a global footprint with our postgraduates, and we have about 8 faculties. Yes, we have a history that I think, I don't want to talk about it now, so that we can be fast. We do have a history. We've really grown in the past 40 years. And we do believe in research. We do believe in research, and we're trying to promote research as much as possible, especially research that is going to help us with innovation. So we try that. But, you know, we come to DERISA, and then we are here to share scientific experiences and really to create knowledge exchange and so forth. But the most important thing is data. We are here for data, really, which we know can really lead to good decision making. So the most important thing is it available and can we use it? I think at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what we are saying. If those two things are good enough, then we are really good. So we're living in the open data era, right? So in this era, I think I'll look there. We know that it's, and the last speaker, yeah. Yes, thank you. The last speaker just really did it for me. Thank you, sir. In terms of the need for data, driving our environments and demanding that the business performance are relying on data and what we get out of it and so forth. So I think this slide has just been covered. And we know about open data. We live in the open data environment. What we are saying is make data available to the public for free in all formats, use, access, and it should be released by governments and institutions and private. We are in that era, and we have all these principles that define the data, default accessibility, non-discriminatory, machine readable. We want data to be in this way, in this. We have some practices that we see, and we've seen some examples that were presented today. We see data sets, government data sets, countries creating portals. The World Bank, for instance, has a template that government can follow in order to set up their own environments. And also, we see companies bringing in and being interested in scientific data as well. Open science also is saying let's share methods, scientific research and implementations. And there are so many things that we are supposed to do under open science, open methods, open access, peer review, open collaboration. I don't think that needs introduction to the people in this room. But we do have examples of where open science is really is happening. As we can see, there are shared experiments, open coursewares, repositories, etc. So we are living in that era where we are beginning to embrace openness. However, We do expect that there will be good things that comes out of all that. I'm not going to read everything that is there. Promoting transparency, accountability, and having more citizen empowerment to people due to that. And we have global initiatives that are helping us. As I said earlier, any country that needs to check how they are in terms of their indices, World Bank can do that for them. They've gone around doing for many countries, UNESCO recommendations, RDA recommendations, OECD, they've got indices that can help countries understand themselves, the care principles, which includes the indigenous knowledge, and then most importantly, we all know about the FAIR, and the FAIR has been, in this environment, has been discussed a lot in that, which was led by Codata and company. So I just wanted to talk a little bit, and I'll go very quickly through what we see as the barriers of the findability. I picked FAIR. I could have picked any of those initiatives, but I picked FAIR because it's very common, it's very easy. We do have a problem finding data, and those are some of the points, the problems that are making data to be unavailable, as we've already said, especially provenance of information, metadata, a multidisciplinary exchange, and so forth. We do also have a problem with accessibility. Accessibility is only a factor of policies that are already in place in the country, and also whether the people really have put the policies right. So we do have a problem with that. We also have a problem with interoperability for a number of reasons that are already there. We are talking about the semantic and the structural communications in terms of interoperability. We also are talking about reusing data. This is a whole topic now. It's a whole topic on itself. I was in a conference that was only talking about reproducibility some 3 weeks ago in Barcelona. So are we able to reuse and reproduce data? Are the data sets available, and so forth? And there are other barriers. Infrastructure funding, capacity building. These are also factors that are making us not be able to use those guidelines that we are given to be able to access our data. In the end, which data are we looking at? Are we looking at intrinsic data or contextual data in our research? And this is a question that I'll leave it to you as researchers. At the end of the day, we need to write something, we need to analyze. But where are we because of all these problems? So let me just give you quickly a few examples of some of the research projects that I am involved in. One of them was to develop a machine learning model for COVID-19 mortality prediction in Botswana. It was funded by the University of Botswana. We're just trying to do the same as any country would want to do, to try and understand what happened, how they manage their data in the country, and try to see if we can have predictions going forward. The question here is not so much on the project, it's on what was needed in terms of the data. This is the data that we needed. We needed to understand all these things, starting from 2020, as soon as COVID-19 came in, and then try to come up with predictions. And the data sets, we identify the ones that we are going to deal with. We have different systems. Sorry, I want to go back. Going back? Yes. Yes. We have so many different systems that we could get data from the health sector for this one and also for the next two projects. And what we really needed was the metadata that looked like this, that had all these components. Did we get it? For instance, I came across one metadata that is done by University of Pretoria, which would have been perfect for us if we had it in Botswana. Fundability in all, we believe that it failed for this project. A FAIR principle failed from findability to access to interoperability to reuse and also funding. So because of time, I won't go into each and everything, but all these issues became a problem for this project, so the project cannot go ahead. Another one was evaluating healthcare data collection, which was funded by the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. We're working with it right now at the University of Botswana. And we are trying to understand just the whole flow of how data comes from one place to another within our health sector systems, within all those systems that I showed you. And again, we were trying to come up with this kind of flow charts. We wanted to understand data at national, regional, district, government level. So we wanted to do all these mappings. And this is the data that we are looking for. Did we get it? No. Sharing of knowledge, no problem. A big problem. Bureaucratic processes, systems are disintegrated, poor quality, reuse, zero. Where we couldn't get any centralized data or knowledge to help us with this particular program. And funding was a problem because we had to go around physically going to all these places. Another one was to build an e-health enterprise architecture blueprint for the country. It was funded by Center of Disease Control, and we're working with University of California and San Francisco. So what were we to do? To assess the health systems landscape in Botswana and develop an enterprise architecture blueprint. We wanted to come up with something like this that was looking at the business part, data, application, technology, and we needed the data that could make sense after that. We had to look at all these data elements. Again, issues of findability, access, interoperability. Remember, I'm just using one principle. It could have been other principles, even our principles from OECD. I'm just using findability. We had a problem with that. Another one was DPS, diamond sorting. What we are trying to do here is we're trying to look at particles in the rubble, how much we are losing the particles, and to try and understand the images that are coming out of the rubbles, because some of the diamonds could actually be clamped inside, small particles. So what we did, went through the X-ray transmission sorting. We need to understand image segmentation and end up using deep learning methods. This one was okay, I'll skip it. There was no problem with findability, access, but reuse, no local sources at all. We ended up having to use medical imaging in order to understand this problem. And there was no capacity building in our area. So there are many projects that are like that. So my question here would have been, what are your own experiences? Are these principles that have been given to us, how do we contextualize them to understand that in low resource environments, FAIR principle is not applicable? So that's why I was asking you, what are your experiences? And also to conclude that FAIR is not working in a resource-constrained environment. And as we say, data is a massive socio-economic driver, including research. Data democratization that was just presented is complex and it needs consultations at all levels. The principles that we get are just a guide, and implementation should be in terms of context. And then we also need data government policies. I think that we have concluded with everybody who presented today that this is the key thing. And then, of course, we also must highlight that if we don't do that, typical projects that I've just given you examples of actually are affected. They end up with not so much using intrinsic data, but rather the reasonableness that they can get out of data, and we are not sure whether that is not affecting the quality. And also we need to talk about standards, whether we adopt the ones that are already in there, or we develop our own. And I know that South Africa has actually progressed in developing standards. So really that is what I wanted to say, just to say all these beautiful write-ups and principles that are generated for us globally may not always work in certain environments, depending on the capacity that you have, and also that we need to recognize that as we are talking about data for research and innovation. Thank you.
Is what we were giving others, but not in the bag.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks
Okay. Yes. We are going to move to the last presenter.